Paul?
The amphitheater, that's part of it.
Oh, I didn't realize.
We're live now.
So it appears. I'll take it that means we can proceed. This is the Open Space Committee meeting of September 25, 2023. This open meeting is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law March 29, 2023. All members of the Northborough Open Space Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The act allows the Open Space Committee to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded, so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along. Live stream the meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube. And ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Good evening, members. Thanks for making time to come on this Monday night. I'm going to take a quick roll call by voice, please. Ashley.
Here.
Paul Cacciatore.
Here.
Dan Clark.
Here.
Brian Bilfer.
Here.
Bill Pierce.
Here.
Paul T.
Here.
And I'm John. I'm here. We have 7 members, which is a quorum, so we may continue. And again, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. We carried over a couple things from the July 24th meeting. And the first of those was discussing about trying to keep to this regular meeting time, the 4th Monday of the month, and doing it on every other month, the odd months, as he says. There seemed to be general agreement and consensus that that could work. We all get busy in other committee meetings, and we don't often have too much urgent items, but when we do, we can always call another meeting. But I wanted to make this sort of a official policy. Is there any other comment or agreement or consensus? Our next meeting would be November, and after that, January, and so on. Chime in, anybody with a pro or a con?
I think that works.
Sounds good
I
to
like
me.
it.
Yes.
Good. Really hard to get agreement on less meetings. Good job. Okay, I like it. I don't think we need to vote, but we'll continue with that policy. So all good. Moving on, by the way, we started the meeting roughly 7:25. Moving on to the next item. We evidently, the Open Space Committee, is apparently responsible for appointing new members to the Trails Committee. This came up in an email. I really didn't know that that was our authority. The Trails Committee did start as a sort of a subcommittee of open space, but obviously has grown its own legs. Very active committee, but I'm told that that's what we need to do, so no problem. Dennis Lindenberg expressed interest in the Trails Committee. We're not needing to conduct a formal interview, as far as I know. That's only really for select board appointed people. So I guess I'll only ask, did Dennis come to the most recent Trails Committee? Brian, would you know?
Dennis did not come to the most recent meeting, and I can't say I've ever met him or heard from him. I'm not necessarily privy to all the emails that Bob Mahalik gets, but we generally share a lot, and that's a little odd. I mean, certainly welcome, whatever let me back up a step. The process has mostly just been the people who wanted to volunteer and who stuck around became more formal members, and we
Right.
kind of added them to the email list.
Exactly.
there's been people who have been on the committee who have just kind of gone silent, and they've been taken off of the email CC list. Most recently, we had Forrest Lyford, who was on the committee for years. He officially resigned. But otherwise, it's been slightly more casual coming and going, probably more casual than it should be. It's kind of odd that someone is just that we've never met wants to do it, but I mean, whatever the process is, like, that's cool.
I think Dennis thought he was, following a protocol by contacting the town, and he went through Vinny or Lori
Yes.
or both. And
Yeah, I think we don't know what the protocol was. It's probably our own committee's
Well,
ignorance.
right.
Yeah, if I could jump in, he actually sent, there was a notice on the town's website that there was an opening on the Trails Committee. He submitted his letter of interest to the select board, and there was confusion of whether the select board appointed him or the planning board. And then it was decided and dug out through the records that it was the open space that needed to. And that took probably 4 months to get through that process, and he's been just dangling. So he has contacted me and sent an email, and I spoke to him over the phone, I think a month and a half, 2 months ago. So he was waiting for this meeting. I thought he might be attending, but I think he might have had a conflict. So it was more my being new, Laurie being new, and the shift in juggling of town administrators. So it was the town's process that kind of lost this one in the mix, but he seemed like he had good qualifications, that he had done a lot of hiking, and he spends a lot of time out on the trails, and he was willing to help. So we forwarded his resume or his application to John, I think.
You did. I confess, I forgot that we might communicate with him directly, that, he can be invited to be a guest at this meeting. But obviously, I don't think we have any objection. And as Brian said, it was somewhat informal. And I'm not sure where that posting came from either then, because as you said, you weren't necessarily advertising for more members. People just kind of show up. But
Well, I think it happened when Forrest resigned, so they got a resignation letter. So they posted right after, and that was the thing, because we weren't. I know there was not anything sent out looking for people or a full notice.
sure. Well, if Dennis is listening, then Brian, as far as you know, there's no objection, obviously.
No, I mean, we wouldn't. Yeah, there'd be no reason to object. I mean, other than, like, it'd be kind of cool to meet the guy and make sure that they really want to do things. But that's kind of like any committee, I guess.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that he was invited to, go to your last meeting. I believe he was given the date, but I also see in his email that he was away for a certain number of weeks. Briefly in his application, he's a longtime resident, 37 years in town. He's an avid user of the trails, and feels like he wants to pay back for how much he's enjoyed them. So that's a good attribute.
That sounds great. It does bring up the question, as I look at the town at the website, there's some names on there that are people who just no longer show up. And Forrest is still listed on there, even though he actually officially resigned. So I guess as a committee, we have not been following the process properly. So I guess I could use some advice on how from here on out to remove the folks that don't do anything, and then add the proper process for adding folks in, since we admittedly have not been doing it right.
Well, I think what we've got, when we do the town report usually it's in May, I think it is, but when we prepare the annual town report, that's when I've gotten, in my 1-year term here, we got a request asking to see if all these people were still on the Trails Committee and still interested. And I forwarded it to Bob, and he said he wasn't sure about a few, but they don't have people banging down the doors, so they were leaving them on. And there's still, I think, one open position on the Trails Committee officially. So that if you want to try to organize and regroup that, that would be great. But there is, the process is kind of left open to each of the different boards. If they have an opening or have people that are not generally coming, that the chair usually talks to them and then finds out if they're still interested and just have some health issue or something else going on. And then they would let me know, I think, or
Sure.
Diane.
Is it a requirement that the chair is the one who contacts them, or could another associate member of the committee like myself be the point of contact to find out continued interest or not?
That's up to the chair. I think what we had done was we just basically requested of the chair, are these people members of your committee? And the last time, which was probably 6-8 months ago, the response back was they all look, it looks like I know the people, I haven't seen them in a while, but we'll still keep them on the board or on the committee.
Excellent. I will take up that detail with Bob
Yeah.
Mahalik, the chairman, and we'll work it out. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think as far as the website listings, we should look at our own committee for that matter. If we have corrections, I'm pretty sure we can send them through to.
I can update the websites.
You can or you cannot.
I can, if you send me the information, I can update it.
Perfect. Thank you. So good to know for open space as well. I'm pretty sure we actually also have an opening because it was a few years back that there was a couple of people interested, and we got our committee expanded to an additional, at-large member. And now I'm pretty sure that's open. And for one reason, Bill was an at-large member and then became part of the planning board. So that was another slot. There may be 2 slots open in fact, but so we should take a look, make sure that's up to date, and obviously encourage anybody else to come on. But let's close this agenda item by welcoming Dennis to attend the Trails Committee if he's listening. Sounds like that's the message, right, Brian? And there's
Did you want to appoint him or just?
yeah,
have
I
him
guess
make
we
the
should.
Trails Committee?
I guess we should vote to appoint him, and it's continues to be odd because we don't know him. But I thought his application seems completely genuine, and so since the Trails Committee encourages anybody who's active and can lend a hand, then I think it's a good idea. So I will put it out to one of you to make a motion. Maybe Brian, you would.
Sure. I move to nominate, Dennis, I lost my notes.
Lindenberg.
Dennis Lindenberg to be a member of the Northborough Trails Committee as of October 1st, 2023. Or immediately.
Second.
Oh, Bill,
Thank you.
okay.
So Brian motioned, Bill seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote by name. Ashley,
Yes.
Paul C,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Paul T,
Yes.
and me, John, yes. So unanimous vote. Dennis is appointed to Trails Committee. Congratulations. All right.
Appointed October 1st or immediately.
Get over there. Okay, the next agenda item is election of officers. So we broached this briefly at the last meeting. And it is myself who wanted to put this on the agenda. And I'm doing it for 2 reasons. One, I've been on the committee for a very long time, and I think I became chair in the second year because the chairperson left. And I think I had somehow become vice chair, so therefore I became the chair. There's really been no other formal process in the ensuing 18 years that I remember. I think it's a good idea that, as most boards do, that we revisit the topic every year. And I am willing to continue if that's what the committee wants, but I must confess, there's times I feel like I run out of time to keep updated and keep meetings updated. We went several months without a meeting, and I felt bad about that. And at the end of the day, it's my obligation to keep that going. It helps that we've agreed to a reduced amount of meetings. I think it helps for everybody. We're all on other committees, and it's easy to get busy. I also think it's a good idea that we do have a vice chair. If I have a reason when I can't host or something happens, I do still travel for work, and sometimes those conflicts come up. I would like to suggest that we have that. That would require somebody being willing and somebody nominating that willing person and us voting on it. So having said those two things, I'm open to anyone else that believes they would like to serve as chair. And I'm open to you guys telling me that it's okay, I continue. Don't all speak at once.
I think it's more than okay for you to continue as chair.
I would agree.
Thank you
I
for
would
those.
agree as well, John. Do you want to? I mean, I don't think you've, even if you feel like you haven't been up to date or missed meetings, I don't think anybody else feels that you've been subpar. So if it's because of that, I don't think, don't feel like you need to step down. But if you feel like you want somebody to take over, then maybe, open the floor, but otherwise.
Thank you. I appreciate the support. I've broached it a little before. I think that, when you're on a committee for a long time, I think it's important to leave it open that some committee members may object, and that also that we make it clear to the public that we're going through this process. Once in a while you get people in town who question, why is it the same people on the same committees and so on. And the answer to that is that, a lot of the same people are active and want to volunteer and spend the time. We're not having that many new members breaking down our door to get in, but obviously we just talked about open slots, so we're always encouraging new members. And so I just wanted to get an open discussion about it. And I appreciate the support. It's probably a good idea we vote to confirm it. And I won't tell you that I'm going to do it forever. There may be a time, to retire, but I'm willing to continue. And I like my role as the CPA rep. Obviously, we had the same discussion at the CPC meeting, and yep, they didn't want to get rid of me either. So I will, So I'm willing, but it may not last forever. But we'll give it a go for this year at the very least. So somebody make a motion to keep me around.
I move that John continues as chairperson for the Open Space Committee.
Second,
Thank you, Brian and Ashley. And so we discussed it. I assume we're all good. I will call a roll call vote again. Ashley,
yes.
Paul C,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Paul T,
Yes.
and I will vote for myself. Again, thanks for the support. So now comes the tougher one. And this is not a requirement. I just think most committees in town have a vice chair. I think it's a good idea. Obviously, someone has to be willing. It's, as I say, not a big deal. Does anybody think they could take that role? And your job would only be to essentially fill in if I couldn't serve the role as chair. This committee is pretty participatory from everybody, you know. There's no one's really, you know, particularly those that show up, we mostly do show up. Our missing members is really only Leslie, who obviously is very, very active on the committee for as long as I have been. And Anthony Zeiton, I believe, is supposed to be, no, Bill's our planning board guy.
Yeah, Anthony is going to be coming on board, and I'm
He
gonna
is,
be,
okay.
I'm going to be moving off.
Very good, Bill. I made that note and I didn't know why. Okay. So that would be as of the next meeting, probably.
Probably, yes.
Thanks for clarifying. Sorry to lose you. You want to come back as a at-large member?
I would think about it, but I've got a couple other new committees that I'm on, so trying to thin out my time as little as possible.
Certainly understand. Very well. So we're back to the discussion, whether anyone feels they could serve as vice chair. We're being like Jeopardy. We're passing the time of the sound going dead.
So it's primarily structural. It's primarily like running the meetings when you're not here.
Yeah, honestly, there's no, as I say, this committee runs by everybody else kind of jumping in. So there's not like you're having to participate in any sidebars or meeting prep. Thank God we have Vinny, and Vinny, you do a great job prepping us up. So it's really just showing up.
I mean, I would be willing to take it on if no one else wants it, because I think it's probably pretty good to have that role filled. I'd actually like Ashley to do it, but I was waiting for you to speak up first.
I mean, having been a vice chair and a chair, and I couldn't even find the Zoom link tonight, I feel like my brain is like very tapped out. I would like to, but I don't think I can, unfortunately.
Totally get it. I know you're on at least 2 other committees,
Yeah.
not to mention the committee of family, which has got to be
A lot of people's schedules.
exactly. Well, Brian, I'll take you up on your offer.
I
So,
second that.
A lot of other people are quiet, so I don't want to, so
I'll second it.
nice job, Paul. It was, if you'd waited another half a minute, you could have got off the hook, but appreciate you stepping up. So now that we have a, let's just say you nominated yourself, which is awesome. And Paul C. seconded you. So we will have a quick vote to affirm your offer. Ashley,
Yes. Thank you, Brian.
Paul C.,
Yes, thank you, Brian.
Dan,
Yes.
Ryan,
yes.
Bill,
Yes.
John, me, yes, and Paul T.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.
Sure thing.
All right, on to some meat and potatoes. So we talked and have had, and this will be a continuing agenda item, our outreach plan that we want to make this regularly renewed, and that we should get to the point of sending another round of letters. I think we went through our list at the last meeting. There was a few things to be clarified. I guess I'll open it up. Vinny, you can begin if you learned anything from your revisions, and any other member who looked at the list. Is there any new news, anything to update, anybody to add?
All right, so I just brought my screen up. You can see that. And I don't know if you wanted to go through it. What I did on the spreadsheet was the left column, the address column, I highlighted in green for the new sites.
Great.
Unfortunately, our IT folks there's been transitions, power outages, all sorts of things that surprised their time schedules. So we didn't have a map ready for tonight. I was hoping for a map so we could pull these up. But generally these are new areas along School Street, South Street, and Elmwood Drive that Ashley had found. And I wasn't sure about if you wanted to discuss this, Ashley, and walk through your thoughts.
Sure, yeah, I think I mentioned it at the last meeting. There were just some areas in town off of South Street, between South and School, that, you know, seemed like there was a significant amount of open space that, you know, maybe doesn't look super developable, but it could be eventually, I'm sure. And so, you know, it's worth reaching out to the owners and, you know, just seeing if they're interested.
So the two listed by the owner, Petal, are they side by side, those two parcels? Yeah, they got the same address.
Well, the home address, yes, but these are the golf training center and frontage lot up against School Street. She actually just today, I think, just today, filed with the Conservation Commission, just asking, because she didn't have any permits or anything on file to operate the golf training center, which I guess has been in place for 30 years. Because there was a question raised about some of the activities there, and I had no approvals for permission to make any changes or do any activity within the buffer zones to the wetlands. And so I dug it out and found that there was nothing. So I talked to the Petals, and they wanted to get everything in line and everything legal. So they filed for just the regular operation of their golf training center. They don't have any plans to sell or to develop, but they just wanted to get on record that they want to be able to do a little maintenance on the pond area, mow the lawns, do invasive plant treatments. So they seem to be actively managing the land. So I don't know that they're really interested, but I think there are some similar properties that are already on the list with that same situation, but it's up to the committee.
So all this time, the golf training has it been an informal arrangement, or were they paying a rent to them? Any idea?
No. The Petals run it, own it, operate it. It's just that the Conservation Commission never had a filing for it, because it probably was done possibly as part of the other work on the golf course, and it just fell through the cracks. No one ever noticed, because I'm new, so I didn't know any better. So I looked it up, but everybody else knew it had been there for years, I guess. So nothing was ever done.
Interesting. Yeah, it's very active, and I knew that the golf instruction is a separate entity from the golf course. You don't pay for it at the golf course, but they've long had an association.
Yes. And they do a lot for the town. They sponsor a lot of the young golfers and get them motivated. And I guess they've had some really good golfers in town. And part of it is because they get an early start. So
Absolutely.
they're really good.
Um,
But if we could get a CR or something like that, that's a possibility, just so that we know it's not going to get developed.
how did you reach the Petals? Just they were available. Oh, they
Knocked on the door. I went out when I heard something was going on, and I saw the house on the side, and I just walked up and knocked on the door.
Oh, okay.
There were no signs saying no trespassing and enter at your own risk kind of thing.
They list their official address as Florida, but are they residents of that house during the
No,
summer months, do you think?
no, but it was during the day, and when David was in there working. So it was just good timing. And there's a guy, I guess, that works there regularly that kind of manages the property. So.
Very good.
They were open. They wanted to do the right thing. So I give them credit for complying and working with the town.
Well, very good. So, but people to definitely, receive a letter with the knowledge that conservation options are available.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would be worth, really reviewing some of these letters and having some of them tailored, like in this case, all of these, maybe they talk about, restricting the backland and getting a tax credit and things like that, because they're not going to be selling and they're not going to be, oh, okay, you have that. Okay.
Well, I have that, but I didn't note it. I said all protection options letter. So that's an
Okay.
acquisition. So the yellow is the acquisition, CR, permissions, any of that stuff.
Okay.
The purple, I guess, is the backland CR. It's easy. And then the blue is, as it says, lot specific. So I tried to organize it that way. And for that one, those new ones there, I just put them on as a general letter. But it may
Okay.
be for them that it's more just the CR because they are protecting the swimming association. That kind of surprised me, but that there was a swimming association there. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You folks know it better. Would it be a specified letter or a general letter?
Yeah, that might be a tricky situation. I mean, I'm part of that, and I know Paul used to be, and I don't know how that would work just because it's membership owned. So I'm not sure how you would even, the membership would even vote on that, but it's worth a letter and, consider something they can consider. And I think it would be, just send all the information.
Okay. And those were the bigger ones, the 20-something acres. And then Elmwood Drive property, I'm not familiar with that either. What's the
I
background
think
on that one?
it's the house on the end of that Elmwood Drive just has a really large lot. It's mostly wetlands, I believe.
Yep. Okay.
That was School Street. I don't remember what that one was, but
Yeah, 74-113. I'm afraid to jump off this screen and try to get a map up for you because I might end up with problems.
So I will say, I do think the 141 South Street, the swimming, does have a chapter 61B on sort of the back, whatever it is, 20-something acres on that.
So that's 61B.
Yeah.
Is the only access to that on South Street, that little driveway?
yeah. I mean, you could access it from Catherine Drive. There
Yeah.
is significant development potential of that property. If they wanted to expand that road and add it to that development. So it wouldn't be a cheap thing, for sure, probably. It would be an appraised value
I see.
situation.
Okay. All right. And then I wasn't sure if you wanted to move on to the other ones. It's up to you, John.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, and this may be repetitive, but in interest of me learning at the same time, and being new. So on Brigham Street, the DPW, as I call it, has part 2 of their facilities running out of there. Additional plowing. There's plenty of garage there now. There's a significant wooded area along Brigham Street and along School Street that abuts that property. Is that protected land or not? Because if you come down South Brigham Street, you have the cemetery, right? That's on your left-hand side that DPW has cleared out there and is going to beautify that cemetery. And then you continue down Brigham Street, and before you get to the DPW depot, as I call it, there's significant wooded area on the left-hand side there. before you get to the depot. Is that town owned? Is that,
Town owned, but I don't know. I mean, you'd probably have to look at the deed to see what it says in terms of use allowances. It
I
shows
just-
up on maps as kind of protected, but that doesn't mean it is.
right, and that was one of the things that I was kind of looking at, and I happened to thought about it because I live on Northgate, so I go down that road quite a bit to the golf course, and through to the high school. But then I was thinking to myself, like, either someone has to own that or it's protected, but it's wood. I mean, there's tons of land there along School Street and Brigham Street. That obviously the depot was there, but I just didn't know if it was deeded at all, if it was protected by the town.
Oh,
Yeah,
it looks
when I-
like it's owned by the town.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the water district or the water department's office down there. And the area, that whole area is almost 41 acres of property
Yeah.
that is owned by the water department. Similar to the area next to Watson Park, or actually Watson Park
Okay.
area.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm gonna have to probably cut out for a little bit, if that's okay. I don't know if you can still hold the meeting if I'm not here.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem, Ashley.
Okay.
Did you
Oh.
offer the other new ones, Main Street, Harvey, West Main and Gale Street that are on the screen there?
I
I
don't
think
know
I
if
got
I
those from you.
those. Did I? Maybe.
I think you did the Harvey one, Ashley.
Yeah. Yeah, that one for sure. I think that will be, I think we need to jump on that and reach out, but I don't know if a letter is the right thing. I think that's a personal email and a phone call.
Well, I found out that Harvey property, as noted in the contact info, it was sold to a Texas owner recently, last spring, I think it was.
Okay.
And they're planning on doing some redevelopment, I think, because that's what Laurie, the town planning director, said. So I'm not sure it's going to be considered as open. I know they were hoping for the downtown master plan to have like a little park addition in there, I think is what some of the
Yes.
things that were mentioned. But they tried to contact the owner and found out that it was purchased by a company that the contact information is in Texas.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a real bummer. But I think it's worth, asking anyway.
Yeah, this is one of those that connects directly to the master plan goals and obviously what would have been nice to be in on what was being sold, but doesn't mean that it can't still be obtainable. And that would be part of our role, right?
Yeah, I think if we're gonna play any role in the downtown redevelopment situation or downtown plan, that's it. That and potentially talking to these folks over on Gale, Monroe, West Main. I think those are the places where the downtown plan focused in, and if we can do anything to bring them under town ownership or any conservation aspects, I think that's a big role we can play. That's an important role we can play.
Okay. So that would be a general letter instead of a specific. I have it in blue, so that was more of a specific letter. So we want to make that a general letter.
I think those would be specific.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
okay.
would be a very specific inquiry, maybe, it's not, because we're knowledgeable about that it got sold. We're also knowledgeable that it's, targeted as an area the town would like to develop differently. So it might be a matter of learning more about it through Lori and any other resources, and then deciding, what's the approach from the town rather than a general open space letter.
Okay, good.
So I think
All
your
right,
designation is
Okay.
accurate.
I'm gonna cut.
Thanks, Ashley.
Okay, 63-156. I'm trying to look up the numbers. Nothing.
Vinny, something I want to bring up from the planning board side as well that you may want to talk to Lori about some of these is we have the MBTA communities that we have to abide by. And I'm noticing that some of these addresses are some of the addresses we're looking at to rezone under that MBTA community. So you may want to check some of these, like I think the 77 Main Street was one of them. That might have to be part of that rezoning. And if they are, then they'll probably come off this list. I don't know.
Isn't that MBTA zoning something where you just have to zone it, or do you?
Well, we have to
really
we have
to
to
happen.
Yeah, we have to zone for it. But once we zone for it, we have limited options as far as it basically it becomes a by right. For housing.
Yep. Okay.
So you just may want to run some of these addresses by her and see if they're ones that we're looking at.
Okay, I can do that. And so I don't know if
The rezoning initiative bill is to give them the potential to be.
Yeah, basically the state put in a law I believe it was last year, stating that because we are a MBTA adjacent community, because we have the MBTA stations in Grafton and Westboro,
Right.
we have to have, I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head, I believe it was 50 acres of land that's zoned by right for apartment complexes with housing for at least 15 housing units per acre.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, we've been working on the planning board for the last year, trying to figure out where we're going to zone that 50 acres of land. And there are some specific requirements, like it has to be at least 5 acres. You can have individual parcels, but you have to have one that's at least 25, and then the rest of them have to be at least 5 acres, and so on.
Very good. Thanks.
Yep. And if we don't do it, by the way, we end up losing the possibility of state grants.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the initiative. I was just sort of, curious about the process. So basically you can rezone an area of town, by town meeting vote, but it's not specific to the property owners. It's just setting up the possibility of future availability. Am I saying that right?
Yeah. And by right, which is the key, because I think if somebody can build and, make if a developer can come in and buy the land and make a bunch of money, it's going to make it harder, I think, to make it conservation land going forward.
Understood. Well, very good. We don't want to call those out specifically or anything, but good to connect the idea back to the planning board.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. I'll check with Laurie. And those were the new ones that were added. This area here, it wasn't a large area. 10 was the biggest one, the Harvey Holdings. And then these, I think, were like connections for a trail system, if I remember right.
Well, let's see.
This was to make a connection from the town, what is that, the town common there, that goes up to the Assabet Park, like Gale Street, Monroe Street.
Great. Okay. Yes. Very good. So I think this is from our conversation about here again, contributing to potential goals of the master plan redevelopment. And we talked about the Monroe parcel is on the corner, and it's just been unoccupied for a long time. So it was a question of whether it was one piece of adding parkland or walkways or so on. Then the other ones are basically right in the middle of where the Bank of America used to be. The former Lowe's that's been developed next to it, the parking lot in between, correct? And, you know, here again, this is something where I think I'm gonna ask if the master plan committee, if we could make this an agenda item to talk about, do we want to be proactive in something like this to understand what it would take if we wanted to change one of these parcels, and if it became part of a short-term or long-term downtown redevelopment. And, you know, then here again, rather than a random open space letter, it might be something more specifically directed from the town through that committee.
I agree, John. You know, I've been pulling up maps as you guys have been talking about the Monroe Street. 9 Monroe is where the CPAs is directly behind the common. And it's in front of the 11 Monroe.
Yes.
There's a sidewalk that goes up the street and it stops at 11.
Right.
And there is no sidewalk for that corner, leading to the park, for that matter.
Right.
I think the big difference here for me in talking about the master plan is now that we have the common where it is, getting to the common, you know, from a parking area is not easy, right? Avidia Bank is butted right there, the Assabet, you know, the CPAs that are in that area too, that always put up their signs, don't park there, when we have things like an open market at the common. So I think that's, for me, that's a big thing, that we really don't have a way to connect any type of parking or any type of event that we might be holding at the common, which is a clear open space area.
Right.
The only parking that's remotely close is Assabet Park. And there's really no way of connecting the common currently with the park. So for me, it's a safety thing, and it's also, if we're going to continue to host events at the common, obviously the town paid quite a bit for that land. Not to have an area where we're going to be hosting events and not be able to have any parking for those events. It's just, you know, for me, it's just a safety thing, and it's not smart. You can't park along the street on either side of Monroe.
Right.
So connecting that parking lot to the common, to me, is, you know, I think is really important from a master planning standpoint. And I think we should give the input to the plan on what we're dealing with here.
I completely agree there. This is the subject you just brought up in that particular part of town, we've talked about on this committee in the past. And, you know, what could we do to, you know, connect those parcels, control them, turn them into something different. And then it's obviously, it's come up in the master plan implementation committee because this same zone, I'm going to say between the town common and South Street is a focus area as one of the potential target redevelopment areas, in futuristic thinking. And the consultant's report that is still under review and ultimately will be published will talk about, a more massive scale of repurposing that whole square, if you will. And I'm looking at a map too as we talk, but something I was hoping to bring forth to that committee and connect our committee with it is shorter term, talking exactly about how to approach the property owners, and is there any plan, whether you carve up a part of it and you create these connections, create more parking, create a connection between town common and Assabet Park that doesn't require you to go all the way around, whereas you say there's no sidewalk anyway along Gale really, and there's parking there, but we have a great asset in the park there at Assabet Park and town common as well. So I think this is an area where we could be effective in contributing to that.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking that those four things that you marked in green, that I would like to either bring it up to that committee or go back to Lori and discuss, this subject that we've been talking about, Lori Connors, the town planner, and get some suggestions on, next steps, because she or others at town staff may have input on what these property owners are planning to do. Maybe things have already come before, sometimes things come before the planning board and you hear about it, but we talked about the Harvey Holdings one, who the new owner is, and I'd like to, maybe we'll, whether it's through you, Vinny, or I'll back it up with an email to Lori and Rick Leaf, the chair of the master plan committee.
Okay, I will talk to her tomorrow, or at least give her a heads up so she's ready for it and has the information to respond if she has whatever she has.
Yeah, again, I think it's the underlying message being Open Space Committee would like to keep executing its role in the pieces of the master plan where we can be effective. This is actually our next agenda item, but we're sort of tying the two together, just like I had hoped that we would.
Okay. Yep, that sounds good. Did anyone else have any other properties to add or have concerns or issues with any of the ones that I had listed, or new information on any of the ones that are there?
Yeah, actually, the next one on your list, which is line 46, Chris Ostriker. I had some informal chats with him, but I didn't really progress towards being able to really broach the subject. So I'm going to just change that over to, I'm going to write the formal letter for him. So I had previously, a couple meetings ago, said I wanted to try the casual approach first, but yeah. So we can, if you just want to update the sheet, that he needs a formal letter, and I will keep my name as the person to do that.
Thank you. So that makes it a light blue code.
Light blue or yellow?
Lot specific letter, or is it a blue and yellow combination? All options letter, but written from Brian. You know him casually, just as a neighbor, or did you run into him somewhere else, Brian?
We met him on the Trails Committee back when he was trying to do his dog park stuff, and then we've
right. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yes. Forgive me.
And then we've pinged some messages back and forth over the years on Facebook. But yeah, so I don't know who he is. We've talked. So
But no,
It sounds good.
thank you. You were basically, we talked about kind of renewing relations, shall we say? Because
Yeah.
he bought the land from Yellick,
yes,
who had an informal agreement at one point to sell those backlands, and then that changed when the Ostrikers bought it. So learning, just very much then it's a yellow because we want them to know their options, and that, for instance, just hypothetically, should they choose to move, then perhaps there's an involvement with the town again.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the case with any landowner. We want them to be aware that the town has resources for conservation. So thank you, Brian. Somewhat similar to that, I did not do my homework yet, which was to reach back out to the owners of the golf course land. And I'm trying to see where that's listed here.
That's the top lines 2 and 3, Brigham Street.
No, not the Juniper golf course.
Over in Westboro.
The
Indian
Indian
Meadow.
Meadows.
Indian Meadow,
Yeah.
sorry. Yes, thank you.
Come back, actually.
That was on here, right?
Don't know. Indian Meadow.
I don't believe it was.
I don't think so. I don't remember that one.
Okay. Well, forgive me, we dropped it off, but it should be put back on. It basically relates to the portion of that land that's in Northborough, which is essentially the golf course. And the current owners operate the event facility. And prior to that, the land was a possible site for the baseball facility, which ended up over on Southwest Cutoff across from the large Wegmans Plaza. But that brought up the discussion of what would happen to the land. In some history, the Open Space Committee was active in that because it abuts one of our major residential areas, and keeping it as conservation land at the very least was a goal. We made contact with the owners, who expressed their desire to keep it as a golf course, did not indicate any desire to develop it any further, and for that matter, no desire to sell it. They liked having the golf course portion of it, and their event facility seems very busy. So, but I still have the man's name who represented the owner, and I had volunteered to reconnect so that we could send another letter, and I didn't do that yet, but I'm going to recommit to do it by the November meeting, and I'll try to find the reference to it for your list, Vinny.
I think
From what I can tell in the assessor's data, the name has changed since the last time we were talking about it. It probably is similar. I mean, maybe it's the same group of owners, but I don't know. The name is different. It's very long and I can't say it, so I won't try. I don't want to mess it up. It's like 5 names long.
Do any of the auto places abut that land that are on Route 9?
I think they abut the front side of it. So there's like one parcel in Westboro that's the event hall, and then in front of that is maybe Toyota is here, and there's one right beside the Toyota place, but they don't abut the open
golf
space
course.
area.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's designated as 0 Indian Meadow, right? And
I get nothing on it. It's about number 101.
but on the town's GIS, actually,
Yes.
you're right. It shows a sale in January 20th, 2022 for $100.
Right, so it makes me think, it's probably in the same, it's just a reorg or something, I don't know, but the name is like
Yeah. I see.
Bachistan, Wasi, Shri, Akshar, Purus. I can't say it all. There's like 3 more names, but it's totally different from what it was when we originally were talking about it. It's not like it doesn't sound like an organization name. It sounds like something else.
Yeah.
Well, I
true
think
that.
it's, the company is called Mid-Atlantic Inc., the second owner listed,
I see that, yes.
Okay.
Mid-Atlantic Inc., so that might just be the organization from New Jersey.
Contact
Got
I
it.
had was Mr. Yogi Patel back, this easily 4 years ago or so. Okay, well, it's worth noting, we should find a way to reconnect. I've got records of who we spoke with before, but let's get that updated
Okay,
one way or the other, and would definitely be an all options letter, I guess. Even though it's
All right.
very specific.
all right, I can do that.
Interestingly, there are a couple of properties that do abut it. Did you asked about the auto places? There are a couple of other properties that abut on what is the road that runs beside
Otis
Walmart?
Street.
Otis Street.
Otis.
There's like behind that the sports place.
Teamworks.
Teamwork.
Teamwork.
Teamworks.
Behind Teamworks, there's a decent amount of open space that comes right up to the river, and then there's the building further down, I think has sort of like a church in it, and that also has like a lot of land that runs along the river behind it. So, if we
That's
were to
what-
be successful there, it would be interesting to talk to them.
Has anyone talked to Westboro about what's going on in the Westboro area at the golf course? Whether there's a way to make a connection between Northborough and Westboro?
I don't, because the
really.
Westboro side is pretty developed, I don't think they have an interest, but I think the way that Westboro wanted to connect up with our lands was through the Fish and Game area. I think that's how that we would connect with their trails and conservation land.
I think it was more that, that we knew the business side was Westboro. The entrance to it, is Westboro. So it was kind of from Northboro's perspective, the whole golf course, should somebody want to develop it differently, it was a very important parcel to conserve, but
Okay,
I'm glad we looked at it in more detail, that we should reestablish the similar connection that the owners know, that, and we have a chapter designation on it, right? I know that's the case.
Yep.
So we're gonna get a notification, should it, well, and that's interesting, if it changed hands, I wonder why that didn't pop up on someone's radar, but maybe it
I'm not
was,
sure if it pops up, they have to want to change the use.
that could be, yeah.
So I think as long as they keep it in that chapter land, I don't know that the town gets right of first refusal on that. But I don't have extensive experience with that. I can check with Laurie if we want.
Thank you.
Yeah, we wouldn't, even, we would, the laws require that they notify you if there's a change in use, or if they're anticipating a change in use to get approval for that.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't mean they would, doesn't mean they would. You have to catch them.
Well, one of the rainstorms, they didn't even open the course.
Yeah,
So they were underwater for a day and a half.
I can imagine it's a challenge.
Yeah.
All right.
Not to carry the meeting too long, but should we say that our, in our November meeting, we should look at the letters that we had written, maybe agree that the language is fine or updated, and decide at that time if we want to do a fresh mailing to the kind of the all options population? I know
Yeah.
it's been a few years since we kind of really looked at the letters, right?
Yeah, I think it would be good if they were all sent out, but we could take a look at all of them.
I agree.
Do you want to be signing all of them, John, or would it be like if people know or potentially know the people, would it make sense to have the more known person send it out from the open space committee? I don't know how this committee works.
I think there's places where you could do that. I mean, Brian just brought up the one. In the past, Ashley and Leslie worked on the Gilleran, right? And
Yeah, I'd be happy to
Ultimate.
sign that.
yeah, ultimately had good communication with them and was fruitful to a degree, but
Yeah, I think, yeah, just when their time is right. So
Okay.
it doesn't hurt to just check in, but I
Exactly.
think,
So I can send out what I have for the past ones, and if you if folks can review it, and if you have a better one or a newer one, I'm not sure if my files are complete, just check, and then we'll try to coordinate that and get the most current, or at least maybe even there's a couple of options for people to use for a letter.
that'd be great. I know we all have them in past emails, but the one, the general one that we came up with is still good. And, we'd attached certain or included certain information, whether it was from SVT, I can't recall, but we might do that again, or.
yeah, there's probably some good booklets. If we were able to get some from the state, we could include, but I don't know if they do printouts anymore. It might just be a link, now.
Do that.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for me since I'm new, right? To see what a letter is composed of. And then also if we have another planning board person coming on board too. Just to keep it fresh. To John's point about even Brian being the vice chair, like the more information we're sharing amongst each other, maybe even some successful letters. It might be something. I just feel like that would be helpful for all of us, but particularly for me who's learning the process too, as well as some of the zoning stuff.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, it takes a lot of decades to get a successful letter. But when we did the Tri-Town Partnership Project, which was with Berlin and Boylston, we did letters, but we also did, landowner outreach events and things of that nature. And that project was successful in getting a number of people to conserve because there was, the limited opportunity for funding from the state for that project and just kind of a lot of momentum. So I think that was helpful. When you're doing the one-offs, it just takes time. And, people are on their own schedules and they don't have any pressing need to do anything. But if we share, the tax information and, when people are doing their estate planning, they can think about this, then eventually it comes to bear and then you have a successful letter, but it takes a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of sending the consistent message. It's, we're not posting it on the town's website per se, but doing this more often than every 5 years or whatever it's been since the last time is a good idea. So any other specifics that we need to cover? And if not, we can move on from this.
I think I missed maybe what's, next steps on that, Harvey. You're going to reach out to Lori and just get kind of the okay to reach out to them. Is that it?
Yeah, I was thinking of, we're seeing as we're on the master plan committee, we need to be smart about it. We know that 77 Main Street area is part of the one of the key core areas of the consultants, future aspirations, and then the others are right there in the center downtown area. So just a random letter, it isn't the right approach, but getting involved. And I thought I might see if we should put it on as a short agenda item in the master plan committee. Just basically, how could we work toward starting to get some word from some of these property owners, whether there's any possibility of doing something, and then we can continue to have that role, or if Lori and Rick and others feel like, well, it's premature, then we'll hold off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep. And and it will be interesting to straddle the line between, open space and redevelopment, because these will obviously involve some redevelopment. But if we can get ahead of it, maybe we can encourage a significant amount of open space along with that.
Right. And we were, we wanted to tie this to how can we use CPA revenue toward that? If we have, if we know that there's a section, even if we're years ahead of when it would be developed or changed as part of downtown redevelopment, we can still plan on, we need, what does it take to acquire a portion of that parcel? It's X amount. Well, how would CPA money come into play? We have significant resources there, and I want that to continue to be brought up because there's no other easy resource in town for starting to add on. We can't buy all the properties, but if it's bought as part of some park, if it's an extension of a park, if it's some kind of new recreational development, if we can officially judge it as that, then it would qualify for CPA. Just
And
off the
I
top of my
think
head.
and it seems like a lot of those areas would turn into some sort of park area. So that makes sense. And if we're proactive, then we have the opportunity of hopefully getting, encouraging that to pass. But if a developer comes in and purchases it, you really don't have any say in how they redevelop it other than what we've got in zoning bylaws. So
Right.
the more we can do, the better.
Very good. So I will, I'll write an email, maybe even quick call to Lori, tell her, what the conversation was, just kind of get that out there. And then Brian mentioned getting directly to the O-strikers. And then I'm writing down at the next meeting, we'll look at the letters, agree on the update, and agree on how we're going to get those out to this list.
Great.
Good enough.
Great.
Okay, if we caught up on that one, we really just overlapped to the next agenda item, which was action items to support the master plan. We've just been talking about it. So in terms of CPA applications this year, we broached this at our July meeting. We agreed that we should again put in a conservation request. There's no reason why it shouldn't be an annual request, and Paul Cacciatore was updating us on what he thought might be coming from the Rec Commission for an application, but it's not really something where Open Space Committee needs to add to it or require, the land or anything, as I recall, Paul, right?
That's correct. It mostly has to do with improvements at Melican
Yeah, that's right.
Middle School. Tennis courts, basketball courts, dugouts, new fences on the baseball field. That area has been neglected for, I've lived in town for over 20 years, but my kids have come and gone through that and played sports on those fields. So in those courts, and we've got vegetation growing up through the tennis courts now. So that's likely where we would ask for funding from the Rec and Parks Commission.
Excellent. And then I'm looking back at my notes, which really part of the minutes. We were talking about whether we could speak specifically to possible projects in the coming year or next year or two as a reason why we wanted to continue adding to the conservation fund. That comes up when the CPC reviews it each year, in terms of what urgency it has. And we'll just make the same case that we do each year, which is still a valid case, that having a reserve for the potential parcel that comes up is still a goal that we can't abandon. So I'll write up an application consistent with last year.
Do we have that number, John, or no?
Say again?
Do we have that number that you submit?
We did 200,000 last year, wasn't it?
I would just, I guess, just kind of being new to this, but I wouldn't necessarily always be fixated on 200K based on the properties that are on our list. I would hate for a property to pop up on our list and we've only got 200 to go against that. Just up from an outside perspective. I would want to look at that list again, and is 200 enough? Is it too much? Too little? I think it's important that we have a plan as a group of what that number would consist of and why we're targeting that number, whether it's large parcels or not, and if that's enough money or not. I don't know the answer to that question, but I just looking from the outside perspective and looking at the value of some of those properties on that list. And I realized that there could be money coming from elsewhere, but just something to think about.
No, I agree. The little bit of history on it. Our stated goal continues to be, we feel like the available money and our mechanism is to ask at town meeting that CPA funds be placed in the conservation fund, but that our stated goal is we believe we should always be achieving a balance of $1 million or more for the potential to purchase a parcel or, at least a very large portion of a parcel. I'm reminding myself, looking at my notes here, last year's application, we went for the minimum amount, the minimum being what would the minimum 10% be if no other project qualified for the open space portion of CPA revenue. The minimum 10% must be put to that every year. We had the other articles, the senior trail and also the dog park, which both went to the next step at town meeting, but if either of those had not gone through, we wanted the CPC to consider that application. So we only wrote the application for 77,000 in last year's cycle. Prior to that, we were asking for 400,000 in a prior year, 200,000 another prior year. And some of it came from my giving feedback to this committee and where I felt the potential was in the current year's CPC cycle. What else was competing for it and whether there was going to be, any opportunity available. And each year it seemed like there was a particular focus where I thought the CPC was going to lean toward. 2 cycles ago, it was a large affordable housing project that we thought was going to come up. It was going to be an $800,000 project roughly. And that was going to consume all of the incoming revenue for that year and some of the reserves. So we thought there was, less potential. And in fact, we ended up agreeing to withdraw the article from the Open Space Committee. Last year's cycle, the CPC was attempting to conserve its resources for the possibility that a historic preservation article for White Cliffs would come up, or that a use at White Cliffs would come up. And that didn't come to pass. But, we did support the dog park and the senior center. And we ended up pulling back on the multi-use trail design because we weren't able to get approval to do what we'd proposed. So in terms of what's coming up this year, quite frankly, I'm not hearing of a lot of large application requests that have been formalized yet. The possibility that funds will be needed for White Cliffs is still out there, but I'm not hearing that anything's formalized yet in this year's CPC cycle. So that being said, and to your point, Paul, there's every possibility that we could get approval for a more substantial sum. The conservation fund balance was 707,000 as of a year ago at this time. I'll recheck that number, but we're 300,000 short of our goal. So that being said, is that the number we should go after? I'll open it up back to the committee.
No, I think that makes sense, but we have to keep in mind of what else is going on, right? If other things happen to pop up, then they may take a priority over saving. But I think this is the right path.
We did succeed. Town voted 400,000 into conservation 2 or 3 town meetings ago. I don't know why I don't remember it better than that. Whereas for several years in a row, in the CPC's deliberations, the request by Open Space Committee got passed over for things that were bigger and were taking up the current revenue, and those were valid reasons at the time. So, but as I say, I don't see a high demand. We're gonna have incoming revenue of 700,000 or something plus state match. So we have every opportunity that could get approved. So why don't I write the application for that amount? I'll try to get. I'll try to add language to the extent that we feel like there's things coming up that we're going to need to act on that could either support the master plan and or downtown redevelopment, or that we're seeing a little more activity, and just put it out there that CPC members shouldn't forget that open space conservation was one of the major reasons the CPA got elected in the town of Northborough back in 2004. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
As good a number as any. We'll go for 300.
Thank you. Thanks for the history lesson too.
You're welcome, and thanks for the positive input. So we'll do that, and that kind of completes the major agenda items, and it's getting late, so we did need to review our minutes from July 24th. And since you've all read them, I know, is there anybody that has any edits or otherwise a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
That was Ashley and Bill, you seconded, is that right?
Yes.
Thank you, Bill. I did have one correction that I forgot to bring up. So before we vote, it was page 2 of the minutes. In the discussion of outreach plan, there's a number of bulleted items. In the second bullet, it says Brigham Street, Juniper Hill. Update, the last communication appears to be a phone call by Mr. Campbell in 2017. That was in fact the discussion of the Indian Meadow property. So if the edit to the minutes would be just adding that to the description of that bullet line, and that might be sufficient. You see it, Vinny?
Is that the one where we have an address needed in yellow? Miss Davies, second paragraph, or is that the next one?
Well, you mean in the minutes or in the chart?
In the minutes.
It's the on page 2 under the heading of outreach plan. It's the second bulleted line item. Where we had a conversation about my phone call with the Indian Meadow owner. But it
Okay.
was not about the Juniper Hill.
Okay. And what was it about?
It was about the Indian Meadow.
Indian Meadow, right? Oh, the other
Zero
golf
Indian
course,
Meadow.
right.
But Zero Indian Meadow is not on the list, but it should be. So that's what we're talking about in this meeting, but these minutes just should say Zero Meadow, either Zero Indian Meadow or the Indian Meadow Golf Course land. And then the rest of it is accurate. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't bring that up before I asked for a motion.
It's okay.
So could I ask Ashley just remake the motion with that amendment to page 2?
I move to approve the minutes with amended as discussed.
Second.
Thank you again. So a roll call vote to approve. Ashley,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Paul C,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Paul T.
I was not here for that meeting,
Thank you,
so
Paul.
I guess
Correct. And John. We are approved of our minutes. That's all we had. Is there any other new business, new items? Stuff we haven't covered?
Nope.
Hearing none, recommend we adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Ashley,
Yes.
Paul C,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Paul T,
Yes.
and me. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody, again for making time.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night, everyone.
Uh,
Everyone.
Night.
Yeah.
Reminder,
Right.
fourth Monday in November. That is right after Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Perfect.
Same
Right.
time,
Thanks.
same station.
Thanks.
See you later.